Hi. A bit more sensible here, maybe. I'd like to apologize. This video doesn't turn into a single ramble. It just goes. And this is the 5th recording session attempt for this. Some rewrites, an actual script for this. Didn't go well. And just, sometimes, what's the 80-20? 20-80, 80-20? 80-20. Sometimes you just gotta make it. Sometimes you just gotta put things together and put it out there. Rambling Me will explain some of the issues later on. This is just a warning. Yeah, here we go. Spears suck. And D&D spears suck. Sure, they have versatile, so you can use one hand or two hands. That's pretty neat. They also have the thrown property, even though it kind of steps on Javelin's toes a bit. That's alright. Why doesn't it have reach? Hello. This is what we're currently running with, a video that's a sit-down video. That's not a sit-down video? That is a sit-down video? I mean, I'm sitting down. But the usual mix of there's some kind of jazz in the background or smooth music of some kind, and then we talk about, well, just talking. Because what you just saw, and this probably isn't the last either, was, I think the 4th recording of this? That one I screwed up the angle on the camera, I don't know how, and I was recording vertical. So I didn't want it to be the full thing. But also because it's been so long, and then it's supposed to be its own video, and then it's, it kept spiraling and changing, so now we're just talking. Though, of course, we have what was at the start, which he'll continue. Probably balance reasons-wise, to an extent, of like, oh, well, you have to worry about it because spears are cheap to get versus some of the other reach weapons like a halberd or a whip. The whole point of a spear was it's a reach weapon. The whole point! Because it is just a simple stick with something sharp on the end of it. And then, congrats, you have reach. And I wouldn't be that upset about this if it wasn't for Mordekainen's Tomes of Foes, one of the ogre stat blocks mentions a howdah. And the enemies on that back, it will say they're equipped and can attack with reach weapons and spears. The fact that you then had to rule specifically in a scenario where you could have just said reach weapons, you then had to add spears, you acknowledge that it should have reach. And namely because they went back on it, using in a different stat block and item interaction to say that all reach weapons and then spear thrown in to both not mimic, but just, it's acknowledging that spear should have reach, but it doesn't. Which is such a minor thing, which is part of the joke of this, is that it is a minor thing that just, it reveals a problem. And then this opens up a whole can of worms on other weapons and damage types. Like comparing a short sword to a scimitar, one's piercing, one's slashing, but the other's a ridiculous upcost. Because in base 5e, there's no differences to the weapons, really. I mean, sure, there's some stats here and there, but the majority of them, you're just always going to buy the one that has the higher dice. Or the better average in the case of 2d6 versus 1d12. Have them do things! Weapons were designed to do different things. And not to mention the... oh my god. Because this opens up a whole can of worms on both equipment, martial equipment, armor, and martials in general. The fact that spellcasters outclass them so much. The biggest insult being Battlemaster Fighter. Now there is actually a good question in that, and is that actually a problem? I know everything I just mentioned and the few minutes you've already watched. Maybe. I'm going to be honest with you for a second, I have no idea how these recording sessions are going to be interlocked with each other, or in what order different parts of the recording sessions are going to be. So I could be talking after my future self. I guess all of them are in the past when you're watching. So when it comes to the supposed problem and problems that it shows, namely the comparison with the Battlemaster that either had already been seen, about to be seen, already talked about, on how a lot of people as well saying that, like, well, this is what fighters should just be at base. Yet, even at max level, when you have your few maneuvers, you only have 5 dice you can use per rest. Whereas a wizard, look at how many spell slots they have and what they can accomplish with that. The disparity on how they were super scared to give it up And the usual argument is that, well, because multi-attack, they're supposed to have a magic item by that level. And I get there's supposed to be flexibility, which the DM is meant to, like, look over, smooth out. I mean, there's plenty of rulings that either someone goes online to try and find out, like, hey, what is this other person that I listen to their rulings on things say about this? Thank you, by the way, for watching. Or a friend of a friend, or in a previous game it's been run and you just accept the rulings that way, or you accept that it's the way that it is. But it just feels so stingy options-wise, especially when, with the weapon example, the only real difference is damage type and damage number. And not by much. Because also, there's always the obvious. If you're a strength build, go for a greatsword, and that's it, that's the cap. Sure, there's a few other options that do damage. I mean, a maul does 2d6 as well, and it's bludgeoning. If you just want to go the bludgeoning out versus slashing, okay. But when it comes to a great axe, no one's gonna pick up a great axe. It's a d12. Has the same potential for damage, maximum. Average different, minimum different as well. But then the lower you go on that tier, the more it's just how, and the few weapons that do actually play off of this, those with the thrown property, those with like reach, heavy, different descriptors, aren't really enough. If you want the variety to come from the weapons themselves, which the question is kind of why have multiple weapons for a player if at the quickest moment they're going to buy something. But the weapons is a bit of a side thing on that end. That's the spear suck and why this version of the thumbnail had sword, green arrow, spear down. Anywho. Spear should have reach. It's a reach weapon. Stabbing, piercing, going out, cheap to get, mass arms. Short sword, still good for shanking. Great sword, great for, swinging. Fencer, it's all about the deft movements and going in when they're open. Now there's arguments over, okay, well, how in depth do you want the melee system to go? Because it isn't. Neither is the spell casting too much. And the end-all argument, usually, is go to a different system. You don't like spears, or how weapons are handled in this, or how injuries, well, go play a system that has that. And then there's the question that you might also be asking is, why do I have such a big problem with this? Or why, well, I mean, the spear part's a joke. The other part, I've taken care of myself. Is the fact that, over years, running in a similar setting, getting a specific tone, a specific vibe, homebrewing. Yeah, you've seen 3 spells here, which thank you, by the way. But there's a lot of homebrew. A lot. Not just in the case of spells, but martials as well. And when it comes to weapons, homebrewed a few of them and made some of my own, but gotta admit, Kobold Press is beyond damage dice, a great jumping off point for stuff like that. But it's the idea that, so, when it comes to 5e, and its branding, and how it's everywhere, and D&D is like, well, you can play anything. It's like, well, if you got magic and spells, you have a lot of variety and a lot of options, a lot of different things you can do at the table. And if you're playing a martial of any kind, you stabbing? Alright, good, make the roll, and that's gonna be most of your turns. Forever. Even outside of combat utility is not that great. The only thing you can really get flexibility-wise is if you're really pushing for roleplay and diversifying your skills through your background and your background ability. Which just isn't... it's the fact that magic items are supposed to make up the slack. But when it comes to magic items on a spellcaster, that's only really adding. And if you look at the subclasses that have been added, oh my... Cleric's terrible at this. But just the crazy stuff they can do subclass-wise, and then martials are left out. But it's a different systems thing. Yes, there are different systems. There's one behind me. Spooky season, Call of Cthulhu. But a lot of different systems, and this is actually merit of them, are for different styles of game. Lancer itself is mostly just about the combat. I mean, yeah, there's some role-playing, and if you go into the Karakin book, there's some tools to work with that. But it's a mech fighting game. You're Lancers. This isn't to say you can homebrew a bit more down-to-the-ground Starfield game. Death in space can take place in Lancer. You can adapt systems and settings. And I do. I have plans and have already run... a few. Mork Borg for a very, very dangerous part of the setting. We then also have Call of Cthulhu. Set up for a different region of the world, different type of vibe and party you're heading for instead of the usual adventure in this fantasy setting. But that's the part of it that annoys me with 5e, but in short, what I'm about to clarify, what I was just saying is to clarify what I'm about to say, and kind of have some backup to that, is 5e, D&D itself, this massive homogenous brand name, everyone knows D&D, they call a lot of tabletop games just D&D. D&D itself claims this, you can play whatever you want, which there's other systems that handle character creation a bit better, but in saying that, it's like, okay, a lot of the variety, a lot of the options, a lot of cool flashy stuff is all in spellcasters. 8 of the 12 classes in 5e are spellcasters. There's a massive section of the book, again, 361 spells in just the PHB, not to count the other expansions. Did marshals get many maneuvers? No, in one book. Were they even really worth it? And does Battlemaster even be able to use those to the extent of a spellcaster because they're limited? It's options-wise, flair-wise, the stuff you could do with martial is really limited. In a system that is claiming to be, you can play as a martial, a wizard, a spellcaster, a druid, a fighter that goes out, this grand warrior, maybe next time, have a chapter dedicated to maneuvers that any martial can use. Wait, aren't I working on that? In short, this is a ramble. Spears suck. This is why they suck. They just get me to ramble about the system and issues I have with martials and weapons and equipment and mundane equipment and the pricing of things and how it really should be on a silver standard, not a gold standard. It really devalues copper. Certain monsters should also have DR and toughness if you're already willing to put it into a feat. I mean, hey, giants, dragons, things like that. And all of these complaints I've been trying to fix myself. And by fix is not the right word because 5e itself has fit this slot of just trying to be the generic system, the homogenous one that everyone starts with and able to use and get close to what they want, but not quite, which other systems can handle a lot better. Again, if you're going for like creepy investigating a cult and you're just regular people or low-level adventurers and you want to do into a lot more just investigation, tools, this book over here. What are you? Want to do a heist mission? Yes, I know I'm away from the camera. I've got a vibe going. We're about to make a point. Come on. Yes, that heist mission. You want to do a heist mission? This video is going nowhere. The spell... God. You want to do heist, rogues, be a gang, be entirely sneaky, blaze in the dark. Really fun, actually. Want to do another video on this. I'm reading through a bunch of systems to do said things. Actual rules-wise. And again, you want to be mech pilots? You want to do something like Titanfall? Or you want to, like, lean into some Gundam theming? I mean, you don't even have to run the base setting of Lancer. Yes, Lancer, by the way, is that system. Oh, there's a physical copy coming out soon. But even then, when it comes to the question 5e, right, next system. Keeping up the spooky, scary theme. Well, I guess, is it scary if you're the monsters? I guess it's less scary, more edgy. This video. Because we've gone full ramble. Full ramble. Hi, do you want Pathfinder in space? Kind of. Or, you know, fantasy in space, but there's spaceships and undead have ships that are made of living things. Well, not living, undead things. Starfinder. I don't think you could see the title. That was Starfinder. Gubat Banwa. I haven't played that much. Whiffrip, I think is the nickname for it. Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Why do I bring those up in rapid succession and talk about... Hunter the Reckoning. Yes, World of Darkness as well. Call of Cthulhu's over here. This isn't necessarily to show off books. This is to show that there's other systems. And as much as we complain about spears sucking, or the types of weapons, or the way things are run in 5e, and the amounts of homebrew and things you can add to it, there's always the great reminder of, here's another system, and especially the ones of Call of Cthulhu, Vampire, and Blades in the Dark are great for, you know, an October vibe. But really, this video went off the rails, or, I mean, I don't know how the video's gonna turn out. This single recording session right here, this is not what I planned. This is not what the original plan was. This is the fifth recording? Fifth recording. Let's see what stays in. Let's see what does it. Let's see what makes it some kind of blooper reel at the end while the credits are rolling here. Thank you, patrons. Honestly, thank you. when we're trying to write this or record this, either something technical went wrong, but a good portion of the time, I went off script, because I wrote a script for this, and trying to keep a script to it has made this, none of these recording sessions have worked out. Oh no. Oh man. Wow. I hope you're having a good day, and if you aren't, I hope you do.